Hello and welcome to yet another chatty little vlog. In this week's video, I wanted to mostly sit down and talk about my spending habits, how my thoughts around consumption and just shopping in general have really changed over the past 2 years. It's something that I've been working a lot on and getting better at, and I thought that I would just kind of run you through it because it's something that a lot of my TikTok is focused on. So if you came from there, you may already be familiar with all of it, but I haven't talked about it on here too much yet. So let's just have a chat. I have definitely been guilty of over-consuming in the past, and my mindset has shifted so much since then. I think when I first started out as like a college student and was post-grad and was making my own money for the very first time, there were a lot of things that I just wanted to buy and like accumulate because I could for the very first time, whereas before I was obviously reliant on my parents and like whatever money they were willing to spend on me. So having my own money and having that independence, I did kind of go a little bit overboard. I was buying workout clothes all the time. I was buying a ton of little gadgets on Amazon. I was buying new books, stationery, just like anything that was very much an impulse buy that I didn't necessarily need. And I was also always looking for like the cheapest option and saving money as much as possible while still shopping so much. So I wasn't really like saving any more money than I should have been, because even though I was buying a lot of discounted or like value items, I was buying things that I didn't need. So it's just a continuous cycle of spending versus saving. Over the past like year and a half to 2 years, I've really changed my mindset around shopping, and I think it came from the like industry that I was working in and seeing how much people were over consuming, and I started to get like a really icky feeling from it, and I hated my own contributions to it, and I hated seeing how much stuff I had accumulated. And then after just a few months or a year, I was throwing out and constantly just like rotating things in and out and doing all these big purges, and I was like, this is so wasteful. I also read the book When the World Stopped Shopping last year, and that was such a huge eye-opener for me, and I was like, oh my god, like this is such unnecessary waste that we don't need to be creating. And I also got very angry at big companies, corporations who were like purposely creating products to be thrown out or that wouldn't last very long, and the quality of the items that we purchase these days are just not the same level as they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like we used to get solid wood furniture from any store that you would go to, and it would be fairly priced. It wasn't like overtly super expensive, whereas now the furniture that we buy is so expensive and usually made out of like fake materials. It's not even real wood. It's not going to last very long. It scratches very easily. It can't be repaired very easily. Same thing goes for our clothing. It's all plastics and they break down and wear down very easily, but they're not built to last, and we follow all these micro trends, and it was just like so hard for me to wrap my head around. And then recently the Buy Now documentary on Netflix really visualizes it. So if you are a visual person, I highly recommend watching that, because that was another huge eye-opener for me. I think in the US we're very lucky because when we throw things out, it no longer is our problem. We see all this waste go away. And one thing that the documentary talked about is that away is a real place. It's usually going to, obviously there are landfills, but a lot of it's also going to other like third world countries, and they are then dealing with our toxic waste, and it's so bad for them. And I hate that we're contributing to that so much. And this is on top of all the other unethical practices that come with fast fashion, like just the low wages, the really unsafe, dangerous working conditions, child labor, like so many crazy things that are happening, and we just don't see it or experience it in like these Western countries. So anyway, what does this all mean? I don't think it's solely on the consumer to be fixing this problem. This is a global problem. It's something that bigger corporations really have to step in and solve, or the governments have to solve. Like there have to be laws and regulations in place, and it's not entirely on us, but I do think that our money has so much value, and your dollar really is your vote. So you want to support smaller businesses, local businesses, companies whose values align with yours. Like, I think these things are so important to pay attention to. And just overall, we should all be consuming less in general. If something's not broken, you don't need to replace it. Or if something is broken, can you repair it before replacing it? Do you need to buy a new iPhone every single year, or can you hold out onto yours until it fully breaks? Can you buy clothing secondhand or repair clothing that you have and not feel the need to constantly buy new trends every single month? So this is really where my head's been at with all of this for the past year and a half. I spent all of 2024 really working on curbing my impulse spending habits and focusing on saving more and just not consuming so much, and identifying what areas of my life I do like to spend money in. And for me, it's travel, it's experiences, it's my health and fitness, and it's not so much things because it's not as important to me as it used to be. And I'm obviously still very far from perfect, and there are a lot of days where I slide back and I do make an impulse purchase, or I buy some things that I then later regret, and that's okay. Like, there are going to be days that you mess up. No one's perfect, and you can't expect yourself to be all the time. So just kind of lead with grace and give yourself grace in these situations, because as long as you're making an effort, that's the most important thing. So yeah, for this video, I thought that I would just walk you through a few days in my life, chat through some other thoughts I have around this whole topic, because it's something I could talk about for ages. And I'd love to hear any and all thoughts that you have in the comments too. As I get myself ready for the day and do my makeup, I thought that I would chat about my thoughts on no buy or low buy years. I talked about this on my TikTok a little bit, but I actually don't really like the term or the idea of a no buy because it feels super, super restrictive. And I am someone who has always had a very all or nothing mentality, and it's something that's held me back a lot in my life, because if I couldn't do something with 100% effort and be perfect at it right away, I would just quit. And I feel like that's what a no buy makes people do. Also, side note, but I think I'm allergic to this Topicals lip balm. I've been using it for a few weeks and I really liked it at first, and now my lips are burning, so I'm gonna put on some Burt's Bees instead, because this is always tried and true. I have tried no buys before and low buys, and for me, what I found was it didn't really change my shopping habits, because anytime I would slip up, I would immediately just be like, well, whatever, I guess it's time to just buy a bunch of stuff, like who cares, I failed. And what you want to do instead is really figure out a way to reframe your mindset around shopping and actually change your habits, because that's going to lead to long-term sustainable change. Instead, I've kind of created some shopping rules for myself. I have a wish list on Notion where I jot down anything that I almost impulse bought, and I force myself to really think about it for at least 48 hours, but usually these days it's like a week long before I actually make a purchase. I also try to see if I can buy things secondhand before buying them new, because that's an easy way to just be a little bit more sustainable and save money. And you'd be surprised how many more unique things that you could find that way. And a lot of times when it comes to buying clothing, that material composition will be better if you buy it secondhand, because you can find things with natural fibers that are 100% cotton, wool, silk, linen, whatever it is, versus our clothing that's made today, which is all acrylic and plastic and bad for you and bad for the environment, because it just doesn't last and you're gonna only wear it a few times and then have to throw it out. I also made the decision to stop buying from Amazon, and also like any really big box retailers for the most part. I don't buy from Shein. I don't even shop from TikTok Shop, things like that, because it's just, again, contributes to this overconsumption, fast fashion. It's really not good for us, and it's just not something that I want to support. So I do try to shop local businesses, small independent businesses, minority-owned businesses when I can. My goal this year in general is just to put more money into my savings accounts, because I am trying to save a little bit more for a bunch of different things. I have trips coming up, I want to build up a good emergency fund, and I want to get a dog, and like all these different things that require having money. So I've been like trying to be on this journey to save a little bit more and encourage myself to have more no spend days. And so I'm rewarding myself by putting $20 into a savings account every time that I have a no spend day, and I've been tracking that on my TikTok if you're curious to know how that journey's going in general. I think we need to just get rid of any like shame or guilt around purchases that we make. They already happened, you can't change them, you can't take them back unless you like return something, but even so, like just acknowledge that it happened and remind yourself that you'll do better next time. And also, like, obviously not all shopping is bad. We need to shop to survive, and we should also be able to enjoy the money that we do make in certain ways. So I don't like want to villainize it completely. Again, it all just comes down to being a little bit more mindful when we shop, and that's really the key. You'll never be able to stop shopping completely, so just figure out what is worth spending your money on. That's most important. I do also track all of my expenses in a budget template that I created. If you're interested in checking that out, you get access to it if you become a paid subscriber to my Substack, which is linked in the description of this video. Hello, it is now Friday. It is actually Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to everyone, because this is just a day to celebrate love of any kind. But I thought that today we would talk about some things that I stopped doing in order to really curb my impulse shopping, and some tips and tricks, because it didn't just happen overnight. Like, it was definitely a work in progress, and I do feel like I've made really good progress on this and don't really do a ton of shopping anymore. So let's talk about it. First and foremost, I canceled my Amazon Prime membership. That used to get me so bad, like all the time. I was just browsing on there for no reason whatsoever. I was buying a ton of workout clothes on there, a lot of random little home decor things, and once I canceled my Amazon Prime membership, I just stopped going on there so often because I didn't want to have to pay for shipping anymore. I also stopped shopping out of boredom or like just for fun with friends. I used to make frequent trips to TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods. Like, those were my favorite places ever. Target trips were a weekly occurrence for me, and I would just rack up so many random items that I would buy from those trips, and they were all so unnecessary, and if we're being honest, usually on the lower quality side. Instead, I've learned to really find hobbies that I enjoy and that are pretty low cost. I like to read, I like to write. I'm trying to write a book right now. I run, I go to the gym, and my gym membership is fairly inexpensive. I like to bake. Like, all of these hobbies are things that don't cost too much money and give me something to do that doesn't involve making purchases. I also unsubscribed from all the shopping newsletters that I was getting, every single store that would just bombard you with every single sale that they had. And usually these sales are not that good. I work in PR. I have a bit of an understanding of deals and the promotions behind this and the marketing behind it, and they're just not always worth it. These deals happen all the time, so even if they're telling you like limited time only or best deal of the year, like, it's going to come back. And if you're just browsing the site in order to like score a good deal but don't actually need anything, you're not saving money, you're just spending more than you had originally intended, which is zero. That doesn't mean that when I do really need something, I don't look for a discount. Like, I am always trying to see if I can find some kind of coupon code or wait until something's on sale if I really do need it, but I don't browse sales for fun. And getting rid of those newsletters that I was subscribed to helps so much, because you're not being tempted to even like think about looking at those sites. Another tip that I have is, when you're scrolling social media, to really curate your following. I follow people whose values really align with mine, who don't post a ton of shopping content, who I follow because I like their like lifestyle content or their advice or their tips, versus like just showing me products that they're like constantly shoving down my throat. And this is specific to TikTok especially. Like, when you're scrolling your For You page, you don't really have control over what the algorithm is going to feed you. Obviously, you can tailor it and curate it a little bit based off of what you stay on the most, but TikTok is going to push TikTok shop content to you. It's going to push things that drive sales for them, because they ultimately want to make money. So I have developed a really good following list, and I actually scroll my following page versus my For You page a little bit more these days, and I know I'm not going to see a ton of shopping content because those aren't the influencers that I'm following. So this is a way to curate your feed, at least within TikTok, which I feel like not enough people utilize. Like, yes, the For You page is great and the TikTok algorithm is great, and that's what allowed it to be built up to the platform that it is, but you can curate your feed a little bit more. You can choose what you're going to watch on there. I would love to hear everyone else's tips for curbing impulse spending, because these are the ones that worked best for me, but obviously everyone is very different and the things that motivate us are different. So any other advice that you could share is going to help us all. One thing that's also been a big part of this underconsumption journey has been rediscovering my personal style, because for a long time I was buying things but just for the sake of buying them, and I didn't feel that they actually looked good on me, and I thought that getting one certain piece would complete my wardrobe or really change my life and change my perception of myself and make me more confident, when that wasn't the case. And so I spent a lot of 2024 re-wearing the same clothes that I already have and not buying a ton of new things. And when I did, I really did think about them and whether they were necessary to add to my wardrobe, and I really tracked these things meticulously. And for the most part, all of the unnecessary purchases I made were ones that I felt were worth it in the end and that I got a lot of use out of. And so I'm a big fan of outfit repeating. I think that's how you develop your personal style, and that's how you figure out your actual taste as well, just in life in general. For 2025, I actually created a shopping list that I'm trying really hard to stick to, because I do feel like I've gotten to a place in my wardrobe where it feels pretty complete and there are only a couple of things that are really missing from it, but otherwise I'm all set and I can create outfits and I can play around with my outfits, and I don't feel super restricted, but I don't have a lot of things that I don't wear at all, which is exactly the place that you want to be. I've also gotten a lot more into the secondhand space and exploring Depop and thrift stores and knowing what I'm looking for when I shop at these places, because I've done it in the past and I feel like I just always struggled and never felt like I found pieces the way that other people did. I couldn't identify things and see the vision, but now I can. And when I am buying secondhand, I'm looking for high quality products that are going to fit with a bunch of other pieces in my wardrobe, not just something that has to be styled one way. I also got my color analysis done, and I found out I'm a soft autumn, so I'm trying to stick to things that are within my color palette. I'm not fully limiting myself with that, but I have learned which colors I feel wash me out and I don't like on myself, and so then I never wear those pieces that I buy. So just this entire journey of discovering my personal style has actually helped a lot with my overconsumption and made me much pickier, and I feel like that's a big key to curbing your impulse spending, because you deserve to have nice quality items. Hope you enjoyed this rambly, chatty video. This is such a nuanced conversation and there's so much more that I can add to it, and these are just a few of the thoughts that I've had around just overconsumption and fast fashion, spending money, saving money. So let me know if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts, and I can definitely do more videos around this.